What's up, everybody? It's your boy. Here are the opening lines of the novel I'm working on. I awoke to a bright sunrise through a window whose curtains someone had forgotten to draw the night before. A piercing headache screamed between my ears like one might after a night of excessive consumption. To my left, just outside the perimeter of an evidently expensive carpet, lay a glass mug that had evidently bounced to its current resting place as the aforementioned expensive rug smelled strongly of beer and wine, as well as an unfamiliar, unwelcome smell which I could not identify. There's no joke there, that's just the first few lines of my book, aka Reed from Shameless Nerd. Today's video is about artificial intelligence and an attempt to have a nuanced conversation about the actual negative externalities of its inevitable implementation into pretty much everything. If you would like to support the channel, the easiest way to do that is by clicking the like button and the subscribe button, which of course does pretty much nothing, I don't think, really anymore, given that everyone's homepage is algorithmic and most of the videos we see are from random accounts to which we aren't subscribed in the first place. I also want to thank the members as well, right here, these lovely people who make it all worth it. Thank you so much, guys. If you'd like to join the Shameless Nerd community, you can do that for $3 a month by clicking the join button. All right, let's get into it. There have been countless takes on AI. If you're watching this video, you're probably someone who's been recommended a lot of videos complaining about AI, actually, because if you're watching this video on my channel, you're probably someone who thinks about this kind of stuff, and as we all know, everything we say, do, or even think is, of course, intellectual property of our technocratic overlords and used to recommend new content for us to consume. The point is, luckily, there are a lot of people who are having really interesting conversations about AI right now, and generally speaking, societally, so far, fingers crossed, we actually seem pretty apprehensive to adopt AI en masse. Big content creators like Eddie Burback or Drew Gooden are platforming anti-AI and digital detox sentiments. There are a ton of people way smarter and more interesting than I that are discussing why this onslaught of AI is potentially bad. And it has been said again and again how goofy and annoying AI slop content is, why this is bad for creators, why corporations are going to capitalize on the infinitely free labor that language learning models provide to cut costs and avoid paying artists and writers and designers and instead deliver mindless, soulless, pre-packaged garbage to us all in a dystopian future where we inch ever closer to the chair-dwelling humans in Pixar's WALL-E. There are some very funny compilations of AI-generated videos that are uncanny and horrible and fun to laugh at. There are very critical and interesting YouTube video essays about how AI content being platformed on social media is a massive net negative. There is an entire dead internet theory growing increasingly popular about how the internet is approaching a point of critical mass at which it's so overflowing with bots programmed to interact with content, which is now increasingly created by bots programmed to generate content, that the internet is becoming a place where no one is actually doing or seeing anything and it's just bots interacting with other bots. Even TikTok comments where people use AI in their videos or even mention using ChatGPT or something are overwhelmingly negative and accusatory. The rollout of the new Apple Intelligent ads has been a massive flop and have sparked pretty unanimous outrage because it's horrible. One of my previously favorite philosophy channels on YouTube has pretty much devolved to become a channel where he just uses AI to make fun of itself and put it into philosophical thought experiments. My point is that there is a lot of negative conversation about AI, and in my opinion, that's great, and there should be even more. I am going to briefly mention now some ways in which AI has some really awesome applications that are going to change the world for the better, and some ways in which AI implementation and adoption can absolutely be a good thing, and then I'm going to spend the rest of the video talking about another way AI is ruining human culture in a way that I don't even see discussed very much. So, real quick, first, AI isn't evil. I'm not a techno-pessimist or cynic who thinks AI is going to become self-aware and take over humanity, and I actually think that's a really reductive and misinformed perspective to have, one that's really indicative of being uninformed and is kind of silly, really, in my opinion. AI is going to be potentially earth-saving in regard to, like, climate change mitigation, for example, which is very exciting. It's going to make scientific research way more efficient, which will improve all kinds of subject areas and enable innovations that will help humanity. AI is going to be awesome for medicine, in particular diagnostics, where its implementation is going to make the medical diagnostic process almost infinitely more accurate and rapid and individualized. It's going to save thousands of lives in that way, and you should look into all that because that's all the detail I'm willing to go into in favor of AI because I'm going to throw up any second now if I have to continue doing so. I think there is a subtle, nuanced discussion about AI that's going under-discussed in this massive marketplace of AI complaint, which I think is really important and frankly kind of sad. I think a lot of people already see how AI generation could be potentially potentially harmful on a societal level because it can do stuff for you and that could make people lazy or whatever. I think a lot of people already see that AI is going to be used in the arts, specifically in music and film, and how that could be potentially harmful on a societal level because it will harm artists and even further exacerbate the devolution of artistic endeavor in pop culture. I think a lot of people see how AI's insisted implementation into our smartphones and search engines and every platform we interact with on a daily basis could be potentially harmful on a societal level because it's essentially removing us from the primary source material and adding a curator who acts unilaterally and uncontrollably, and that could be a propaganda machine even more disastrous than algorithmic social media timelines already are. But what I don't think a lot of people see about AI is that it just sucks. Like, it just sucks that we have to have this. I don't see anyone really talking about it this way. I see a lot of people saying, this is bad, this is going to ruin the world and make people brainless idiots and be the end of human culture. And I see a lot of Elon Musk tech bros saying, no, AI is awesome and it's going to save human culture and revolutionize the world or whatever. But I see very few people, if any, talking about the idea that we need AI on a consumer level to make tasks easier for us. Sucking. That idea sucks. I'm going to explain what I mean by this. It sucks that we are moving forward toward a world where we don't get to do anything that is intrinsically valuable. Mass AI implementation is the final step in a cultural shift toward a wholly results-driven society. The process will be removed and we will be left with only the product. And it might be great to be able to more quickly and efficiently reach the final product, to be able to use AI to make the research process shorter and more efficient, for example, or to use ChatGPT to brainstorm and organize information, or to summarize long text for you, or to craft emails or write essays for you in high school, so on and so forth. That might be really nice, and you might not realize you're missing anything. You might not care. And as an English teacher, obviously I have my own thoughts about why having AI write an essay for you instead of writing it yourself is bad. And I think that argument has its merits as well, but that's not even what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is the loss of tangential learning and of being lost in the process of doing something. A lot of teachers would argue that having AI write an essay on your behalf is bad because you won't have to learn how to form an introductory paragraph or make citations or write an annotated bibliography or whatever. And I mean, that's true, but as an English teacher myself, I can't say in good faith, if I'm being honest, that I really even care about that stuff. The things you learn when you learn how to and suffer through writing an essay, which are really important as a person, aren't taught by the teacher at all. The important things you learn when you write an essay are how to think through both sides of an argument, how to predict a counter argument and combat it, how to scan sources for information without getting bogged down in them, how to think long term and plan a big project like that, going through that process of research and organization and then drafting and then writing and then proofreading and refining, how to meet a deadline. All of these things are taught by the essay, and they're way more important and widely applicable than specifically how to write an annotated bibliography. And you don't even realize that you're learning them. That's what AI is removing because it has mastered all of those for you. You can use AI defensively to write an essay. I have a coworker who's adamantly pro AI in the classroom and is excited about teaching students how to use generative AI effectively as an assistive tool. You can absolutely use it without plagiarizing, etc., whatever. But you're not being subjected to those opportunities for tangential learning. I tell my students probably every week on average, I say it more than I say anything else to them, and I preach to them ad nauseum. The single most important thing that you learn in school is not the periodic table, or what the road not taken means, or the quadratic formula. The most important thing you learn in school is how to do stuff that sucks. And when I say this, you can absolutely take this premise as a more traditional principle, like you gotta learn how to work hard, and a hard day's work is inherently important, and being lazy is intrinsically bad, or whatever. Or more specifically and importantly, like in the modern world, as an adult, you're gonna have to do things that suck that you don't want to do, and it's important to have developed coping mechanisms for being able to get through those things so that you can make a living and be productive and whatever. And it can be read in that way if you want to, and I think there's validity to that, but I don't even mean it like that. I mean it way more selfishly than that. It's important to do stuff that kind of sucks because when we don't, our brains get worse at enjoying things that are enjoyable. I just made a video on the same kind of idea, and you can watch that here. After you watch this video, of course. But essentially, there is a ton of neurochemical value in doing things that A, are not enjoyable to do, and then earning the dopamine release and reward center activation of achieving the completion of that task, and B, that you're not good at and learning how to do them. Our brains evolved specifically in tandem with these two phenomena. When we suffer and then achieve the completion of the task causing that suffering, our caveman brains evolved to reward that behavior because that was the behavior that resulted in survival. That was running down a much faster animal of prey, but wearing it out through endurance. That was walking the extra 10 miles in the heat of the dry period to find the water source, etc. Our brains crave hard work as long as that hard work has an end. And when we flood our brains with chemicals usually reserved for the result of a bunch of hard work without doing the hard work, we're hurting ourselves physiologically. This results in a state of dopamine deficiency or dopamine fatigue, a traceable, real, non-abstract state which has been linked to Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, ADD, gastrointestinal disorder, all of which are currently at all-time highs and have increased every year on average since 2008, with a sharp spike being seen in 2004. Are you seeing a correlation yet? This is not abstract, okay? This is not principle. This is not idealism or Puritan society trickle-down. This is demonstrable, chemical, physiological correlation that we are all pretending does not exist or is inconclusive because we like the cause of it. We are addicts. We are all addicts. You can tell a cocaine addict that cocaine is bad for them, and they'll cite all the great ideas they have while they're coked out. That's what we're doing. But technology makes everything easier. Yeah, that's the point. What if it's not supposed to be easy? What if automating every single task that we're given is part of the reason we're so sick? And even worse, what if the stuff that we're automating is the fun part? Because the other thing that I think is under-discussed about AI is that in automating the process, we also lose the joy that comes from the process. The problem in what AI enthusiasts say is democratizing the creative process, or making the tools more accessible, or improving efficiency in the creative process, is that all of the satisfaction, all of the fun, all of the soul in a project lies in the process. When we marvel at a beautiful oil painting, very few of us are thinking, oh God, this color is so pretty, or whatever, or this is so close to being photorealistic. What we're thinking is, God, that must have taken forever. That's where art lives. The dedication to the craft and the process is where art lives. That's what makes it human. That's what makes us human. And that's why AI art feels shallow. There's no struggle or experience or complexity in its process. It looks beautiful sometimes, the image generation or whatever. It sounds just like a human-made song, the music generation stuff, but it never feels like it. And that's, in my opinion, because of this removal of any sort of process. This is something that is subjective that we as humans can just inherently pick up on. This sounds preachy or whatever, but test it for yourself. If you're a musician, make a song that takes you a month to compose and track and record and create, and then make a song using a bunch of pre-made loops that you download off Splice or whatever. I bet you, to your ear, if you're a shit-ass musician like me, the one made using a bunch of loops probably sounds better. It probably was way easier and seemingly more fun to make, but when you listen back to both of them, which one feels better? Which one do you love more? Which one would you say was more enjoyable to make? The answer is always the more difficult one, and you can show it to your friends. I've done this very experiment, and almost invariably, they have the exact same reaction, even if they don't know which is which. And that's what we're losing. I don't know what it is. I don't know how we pick up on that as humans. I don't know what to call it or how to quantify it, but it is real. And in automating the process, in streamlining every single little thing that we do, we are losing something beautiful and important. And as a little experiment, I want to show you something. In planning for this video, I went to ChatGPT and I set it to GPT-4o or whatever, the currently most cutting-edge reasoning and generation model you can get access to. I had it analyze the scripts for my last 5 YouTube videos, not including the skit that I did recently, the ones that are more similar to this video. And then I gave it the topic and my notes for this video. And I asked it to write a script as similar as possible to my previous scripts in terms of tone and pacing and sensibility, to focus on that as much as possible, even mimicking the irreverence where possible and the voice as the focus. And I recorded that script. I didn't change anything in it. I stacked the cards in ChatGPT's favor. I actually asked it to revise its script a few times with a few different addendums to try to make it even better. And I delivered it exactly as I would if it were my script. And I want you to compare it to the video you just watched and to ask yourself if it feels the same. I did my best to deliver the script with the same gusto and sincerity. I want you to decide if removing the process had any noticeable subjective result. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the existential circus tent that is my YouTube channel, where we ask the big questions like, what is art? And more importantly, is that robot trying to steal my job? Today's hot take, AI and creativity. We're diving headfirst into the uncomfortable little pool where technology and the arts have decided to awkwardly flirt. Except, spoiler alert, one of them has no soul and is powered by lithium-ion batteries. Before we get into this, smash that like button like it's the patriarchy, and subscribe if you enjoy watching a semi-feral human spiral philosophically on camera. And grab a snack, take a deep breath, and let's unpack the weird dystopian promposal that is AI in the arts. So, let's not sugarcoat it. The robots are coming for your job. Whether you're a painter or a musician, writer, or interpretive dance theorist, if your gig involves creativity, AI is already lurking in the shadows with a Pinterest board full of your best work and the cold, methodical intent of replacing you. But it's just a tool, they say. And sure, so is a chainsaw. Yet when it's pointed at your neck, you're less inclined to appreciate its utility. These AI programs are generating artwork faster than you can say digital heist, and corporations who, let's be real, would replace their own mothers with Excel spreadsheets if it meant saving money, are here for it. AI is cheap, it doesn't ask for coffee breaks, and it won't unionize yet. And so we have to ask, if machines can mimic creativity, will society still value the messiness and magic of actual humans making actual things? Or are we all going to get steamrolled by a wave of algorithmic mediocrity? Look, let's get philosophical for a second, because what even is art? Art is raw, it's weird, it's often messy and irrational and painful and brilliant and makes you feel things you can't articulate without sounding like a freshman philosophy major who just discovered Nietzsche. AI doesn't feel, okay? It doesn't fall in love. It doesn't cry in the shower after a bad breakup and then write a poem about it using metaphors involving moonlight and toast. It doesn't experience anything. It just regurgitates whatever it's been trained on efficiently and with zero emotional baggage. So when it produces a painting or a song, is that creation or is that just remixing? Is it novelty or is it just statistical pattern matching wearing a beret? Humans create art because we're fragile, brilliant meat bags grappling with mortality. AI creates because we fed it 10,000 images of raccoons doing jazz hands and said, go nuts. Not exactly the same thing. Here's where things get legally murky and ethically chaotic as well. Who owns the right to AI-generated art? If I feed a machine 500 hours of Studio Ghibli and ask it to make me a forest sprite who plays lo-fi beats to study to, and it delivers, who gets the credit? Me? The machine?
The unpaid interns who wrote the code?
Or do we just throw the whole copyright system into the sea and hope Poseidon figures it out? And don't even get me started on AI borrowing from actual human artists. That's not inspiration. That's digital grave robbing. AI isn't dreaming up ideas. It's Frankensteining them from other people's work. It's like stealing someone's diary, turning it into a song, and then acting like you're a genius for inventing heartbreak. So yeah, this copyright stuff, total quagmire. Picture this, okay? A world where every painting looks pretty good, every song is vibey, and every movie script feels like it was written by a mildly depressed spreadsheet. Welcome to Algorithmville, population meh. But here's the rub. When everything is generated by the same systems, it all starts to feel the same, homogenized, sanitized, like art made by IKEA. Nice to look at, but completely devoid of soul. When efficiency becomes the goal of creativity, creativity stops being creative. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather watch an awkward, bizarre, human-made short film about ducks who think they're ghosts than another perfectly rendered, soulless AI epic with epic music and zero narrative epic risk. And here's where it can get kind of dark, not Batman dark, more like late capitalism nihilism dark. If we start relying on AI to make our music, write our poems, design our tattoos, and decorate our lives, what happens to us? We stop being creators. We become consumers of creativity manufactured by code. We stop struggling. We stop experimenting. We stop growing through failure. And suddenly, art becomes a product, not a process, a spectacle, not a soul bearing. And that, my friends, is how you lose the magic. So here's my plea. Don't give up the messiness. Embrace the awkwardness of being human. Make weird stuff. Paint badly. Write terrible poems. Sing off key, because you, with your messy, irrational, unpredictable little meat brain, are what makes art better. Let AI be a tool, not the artist. Let it help, not hijack. And for the love of Bowie, don't let the robot tell your stories for you. God, that line really felt gross to even say. All right, that's it. Go forth, be chaotic, and keep your art beautifully, defiantly human. If you dug this rant, if you dug this rant, have I said anything like that before? If you dug this rant, hit that like button like you're swatting a drone. We really lost the plot here at the end of this script. If you dug this rant, hit the like button like you're swatting a drone. Subscribe for more unfiltered thoughts, gentle spirals, and philosophical detours. Until next time, stay curious, stay wild, and remember, robots don't cry at sunsets. Peace out. Okay. I think the AI one was pretty good. It was even pretty convincingly sentimental and human at times. It was very corny sometimes as well, and was like made me kind of sick to deliver some of the lines, but in trying to do so earnestly, some of them came off a little bit better than I thought they would when I read them in my head. But there, in my opinion, is something missing from that. That byproduct of the process that I talked about, I think that's just something we miss. I think it's something that we can feel. And maybe you feel differently, but that alone, in my opinion, is worth pursuing. But like I also mentioned earlier, in getting that AI script written, I skipped what amounted to about 6 hours or so of preparation and planning and organization and drafting. And what I learned, without even being conscious of the fact that I learned it in those 6 hours, is so much more human, so much more important than the time saved by eliminating them. It's okay to be inefficient. It is okay to be inefficient. We don't have to be perfectly efficient creatures every day of our lives all day. Productivity should not be the goal. Existence should be the goal. Being a human is inefficient. If life was only about efficiency and productivity, we wouldn't love our partners. We wouldn't mourn the passing of our relatives. We wouldn't attach meaning to inanimate objects in our house and need a stapler and say, hey, can you pass me that little guy right there? And I think that's maybe the most beautiful, stupid thing that humans do. I don't want to lose that. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.